Thursday afternoon, and it's just about to get hotter with the conversations that we'll be having today on our very first episode of the Youth Care Talk Show right here in studio at the Diamond TV studios. My name is Esther Mlenga, and I am joined by Mr. Godfrey Zulu, who is also coming from the Chilanga district, but he is the District Health Promotion Officer. And of course, on our sign language interpreter, shout out to George Kalimwaka. We do appreciate him. Kalimwaka, I beg your pardon. We do appreciate him for coming through as well. Today, our topic, we are talking about all things safe and unsafe sex, plus also delaying sexual debut. Are people still doing that? So we'll be getting into all those conversations. Remember, the number is on the screen for you to call in so that we can have these conversations together. Let's have this conversation together so we can teach each other and learn from one another. Starting off the show today, let's start off with hearing what some of the youths have to say with our segment called Word on the Street. George, I think we need to do this.
What?
Let me show you on your PC.
No. What?
What are you hiding?
Nothing. No, wait, listen.
It's fine. I'll show you. Okay, this is awkward. But there's nothing to be ashamed about. There's just a better way. Here.
Did that make you cringe? Yeah, me too. But don't worry about it, because on the upcoming youth show, we're getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
By having honest conversations about sex, teenage pregnancy, and everything in between.
So catch us every single Thursday at 14:30 on the Youth Care Show, only on Diamond TV.
Remember, my health, my responsibility, your health, your responsibility.
Powered by 𝐃𝐲𝐯. Supported by AIDS funds.
What's good, Joe? I'm live here at Evelyn Horn College, and I'm going to be talking to different students about safe and unsafe sexual practices. I'm going to be getting them to answer questions about what they know about these two, and also if by any chance they've engaged in some of them. Let's go. Have you ever found yourself in an instance where your partner had encouraged you to engage in an unsafe sexual practice that maybe you were not normalizing, or that you didn't feel like was something for you? And if so, what practice was it?
Not really. Me and my partner we were good at communicating. We believed in consent and protection. So if we were practicing unsafe sexual practices, we were really communicating, and we were very protective of our sexuality.
One of the unsafe practices, I would say, is having multiple partners in school. Yeah, meaning your partner will be having sex with other partners, not knowing if those partners have sex with different partners as well. Meaning it's very easy for you guys to share and spread infections.
This time, my friend was involved in a relationship, and then the guy was like, no, if you really love me, you will sleep with me. And then they had unprotected sex, of which I don't think that was really necessary, because let's say if they break up today, she decides to date another guy, and then the same trend continues, meaning there will be a lot of infections around, yeah.
Unprotected sexual practices that students or people at large, I would say unprotected sex, like uncondomizing. Yeah, most people do have sex without condomization. And what other unprotected sexual activity? Okay, I think using no condoms is one of those major unprotected sexual activities.
Talk about some of the safe sexual practices that you know that you would advise young people out there.
Okay, so for the safe practices, I would advise my fellow youths to condomize. Yeah, because if I would say abstinence, our generation doesn't look like a generation that can abstain from sex.
I haven't like come across a lot though, but I feel like abusing sex toys is really not good for young ones. Yeah, I feel like it's unsafe, and it has brought a lot of chaos in the environment, or in schools or something, institutions, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought everybody does oral sex, man. Don't we all? Yeah, oral sex. Although it's kind of normal. I don't know if anybody doesn't do it. So yeah, that oral sex per se. Yeah.
On TV. I think abstinence is needed because involving yourself or ourselves in sexual activities might lead to various problems like unwanted pregnancies. Most teenagers tend to have unwanted pregnancies, and also infections, so like STIs. Yeah, so those are the problems that come about when it comes to having sex. Yeah.
So those are some of the youths telling us about the safe and unsafe practices that they know about. But something that really got my attention is where somebody said it doesn't seem like our generation can abstain. And it's a good thing that we have Mr. Godfrey Zulu right here in studio, who's a District Health Promotion Officer from Chilanga. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
I mean, you heard what some of the youths have to say. Yes. The youths have spoken. They've said what they think are some of the safe and unsafe practices. But also, to start off the conversation, I would like to hear from you. What are some of the most common effects of, unsafe sexual practices that you have had to deal with in your line of work?
Thank you very much, Mlenga. There are a number of issues that are affecting the youth and adolescent because of unsafe sex. So the first common one is the issues of STIs, sexually transmitted infections. There is also issues of planned pregnancies. There are also issues of HIV and AIDS. There are issues of abortions. Because they are not prepared for this, they did not have safe sex in terms of protecting themselves, they end up getting pregnancies, and from the pregnancy, the result also from the abortions. And those abortions usually is unsafe abortions.
I like that you've said that, but like I said earlier on, we heard somebody say it doesn't seem like this generation can abstain, and she encouraged her friends to condomize. Asking from, coming from different generations as well, and looking at our generation now, is this something that you can actually agree to? Do you think this generation can do that? And if so, should they really start pushing the agenda of condomizing?
I don't think so, because it just depends maybe with the individual youth and adolescents. But abstinence is good, and it's the surest way in terms of prevention against HIV, including other STIs. So abstinence should be promoted at all levels, and we are saying that adolescents and the youth, they should be able to abstain. So this is very, very important. But we are saying again, she was saying this generation seems to be like a generation that cannot be able to manage to abstain. But I believe that they can be able to abstain. But depending maybe with an individual. Sometimes I normally talk about this jokingly in different forums in the meetings, that abstinence is by the grace of God. And not everyone who is of God has the same grace. So therefore, if you can't abstain, condomize. I think that's where the message comes in.
That is very good as well, hearing that if you can't abstain, condomize. I like the part where you said that it's by the grace of God.
Yes.
I guess this generation might need a lot of grace from God, because... But also I want to know, what are some of the most common reasons why youths would engage in such sexual activities?
Well, thank you very much. Youth, I think by nature of them, adolescent, they are so full of activities, trying to experiment here and there. And as a result of that, they copy things from friends. Peers play a very big role in the lives of the youth and the adolescents. You find that if there is a peer who has been exposed to a lot of sexual issues, will begin to be narrating to others, to the friends, and by so doing, they'll end up influencing them also to try and experiment and to test to feel how it feels to have sex. So that was another aspect that influences them. Peer pressure. Number two it's the issues of lack of recreation activities, whereby adolescents, most of them, like the youth, they will just find time just to watch maybe even these movies that are not good for them, that may be encouraging them even to have sex. As a result of that, they want also to experiment. So those are some of the factors. Then secondary, sometimes it's also the lack of attending religious programs, because I know the church also plays a part in ensuring that our community, our youth, they get also to learn. But if they don't attend such religious programs, they end up practicing the sexual issues, and which might not be good for their well-being.
I like the fact that you've talked about that lack of recreation centers as well. I feel like that is a very huge factor amongst youth, because if you get to ask us as youth what are some of the recreation centers that you say, most of them will literally point at drinking hangouts and like that's what we do. So maybe we should work on that. But I would also like to know, what are some of the advantages of delaying your sexual debut?
Maybe before I talk about delaying sexual debut, we must understand that sexual debut, it means that this is the first time encounter of someone having sex. And delaying sexual debut, it means that someone has to take time to wait a little bit longer so that they do not indulge in sexual activities at an early age. For example, teenagers. We find teenagers, if they engage in early sexual intercourse, they end up getting teenager pregnancies, which might affect them in the long run in terms of academic aspect. So we are saying that the delay of sexual debut is very important, so that you give yourself time so that you come and be able to exercise that part when maybe you get into marriage. Otherwise, it's something that we have seen a number of pupils dropping out of school because of early sexual debut, and we want them to be able to further their education.
But also, I would like to know, how do you approach discussions about sexual activities? Because this is not something that is even common in our homes. Growing up, having a discussion with the parents about this conversation, it's not something that we are so used to. So how do you approach such discussions, especially in your line of work, to just make these young adults and adolescents feel comfortable to actually talk about these activities?
Thank you very much. I will talk in the line of work at the Chilanga District Health Office, and also we have different clinics within the district. So what we have the safe youth-friendly spaces where we allow the adolescents to meet and be able to be taught by trained providers about adolescent health issues, including sexual reproductive health issues. So we have trained providers that are teaching the adolescent and the youth on these issues. So the talking, it should be that we initiate the discussion. And as we initiate the discussion, we must be frank and open with them, and so that they will be able to understand. Otherwise, most of the times we take it, maybe talking about sexual issues is a taboo and so on. And as a result of that, you find that the young ones are lacking the information, and as a result, they end up doing the wrong thing. So we need to talk with them openly, and as we open up with them, even them, whatever these issues that are affecting them, issues of peer pressure, maybe it's beer drinking, they will be able to open up. So that when they open up, you are able to help them. Because if they don't open up, it's very difficult for you to help them. So most of the time, sometimes we have seen even parents, they are with their children at home, maybe the girl child. But because they don't normally talk about these sexual issues with the girls, they just discover that, no, the girl is pregnant. How things started, they don't even know. But just find out that the girl is pregnant. So we need to have open dialogue, open discussions with the girl child, even the youth and the adolescents, actually, especially parents, because it must starting from home. It must start from home. If from home we don't talk about these things, it becomes difficult out there to talk about it elsewhere. Because remember, if we don't teach our children, and others out there, they'll teach them. Their peers who know about some of these things, maybe sexual issues, they'll begin to teach them. And as they teach them, they'll begin to be influenced and following their friends. It's because from the home point of view, these issues are not being discussed. There are these issues of like thinking, maybe talking about sexual issues is a taboo. But we must be open and discuss with them so that they'll be able to find the needed help that they need. Because I know the adolescents, they need help. By nature of them being adolescent and the youth, they are full of experiment, trying to learn about life, trying to have experience about this and that. And by so doing, they may end up getting into problems because of early sexual debuts.
Most definitely. The number is 0974-754-719. 0974-754-719 is the number that you can call in and be part of the conversations. But I also just wanted to add on to what you're saying, to ask a question according to what you were saying. Then what happens to the parents, especially in the homes, that go like, but me, I'm not comfortable to talk about this with my child?
Okay, thank you very much. I know it's not easy for everyone to open up. I know there are such kind of challenges. But remember, I want to try to come back in the olden days where you have a grandmother, grandfather, and you think that the grandmother and grandfathers were open to discuss some of these issues with the children, maybe Vazukuru or Vija. But in our context, now, most of the places, maybe in the areas, we might not have grandfathers or grandmothers, but any other elderly persons should be able to take up responsibility to teach the young ones in the community where we are. Because whatever the outcome of that child from that community, we should be responsible, each one of us as the adults, to ensure that the well-being of these children is maintained.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zulu. We'll get back to you. But from now, let's hear from one of our diary sessions, our diary rooms, where we get to hear, from a young peer educator and some of the stories that he's had to encounter.
So my name is Paul Banda, and my nature of work at this facility is I'm a peer educator and a peer counselor. Some of the craziest stories I've had at the youth-friendly space when it comes to peer education as well as the counseling part is there was one of the adolescents who came through. She was pregnant, and the mother was just diagnosed with hypertension, and they were told by the doctor to say they shouldn't shock her or give any shock information. And she was the baby, mama's child, mama's girl. So she was the only child, and the problem is that they were supposed to. She got pregnant and the mother didn't expect that. So she came through and said, I want you to help me out. I don't want to abort the child, and I don't want my mother to know. But I don't want my mother to know, I don't want to abort, but I want to keep the child. How am I going to do that? It was quite crazy until after counseling, after talking about it, then we figured a way on how we can talk to the mother, tend to know about the pregnancy, and luckily nothing happened to her. She was upset, but she didn't die, of course. So after that, she kept the baby, and the mother knew about it without affecting her hypertension and that part. So it really helped. Another crazy thing that happened is the part where a girl came in. So she sat down, and the guys outside were like, "Ooh, is she here for you?" I was like, "Come on, guys, she's an adolescent who just came to seek services." So after that, she came through. We were having a chat, and I asked her to say, okay, how can I be of help? After just having her in chat, an introduction, making her feel comfortable in the office, then I asked her to say, how can I be of help? Then she said to say, I'm addicted to sex. It was my first time listening to that. I was like, ooh, okay, so how do you know that you're addicted to that? Then she said to say, okay, each and every day I'm supposed to have sex. Even one round does it. I was like, so how do you work on that? How do you help out on that? And after counseling, we had the chat. I figured a way on how we can work things out. Then the funny part is that it's this thing where she calls you and she says, hey, this week I only had sex 3 times. Be like, oh, that's a good one. Congratulations, you had sex 3 times. Congratulating someone just for having sex once a week. So that was the crazy part about it. So my words to everyone out there is, to an adolescent out there, whether you're having sex or not, there is this thing whereby someone comes in and they feel shy to say they've never had sex before. Right now, if you say you've never had sex, most of the people will laugh at you, but it's a plus because you've got nothing to worry about if you've never had sex. It's okay to be a virgin. If you're sexually active, there's what we call secondary abstinence, where you can, even if you're sexually active, you can just be, avoiding sex. If you know that every time you have sex, make sure you use protection. Apart from using family planning to prevent pregnancy, family planning doesn't prevent you from getting STIs. And if you use condom is the only dual protection that prevents both pregnancy and STIs. And you can say, okay, if I have raw sex, I'll end up having an emergency contraceptive, or maybe I'll just, try to do another strategy. But, emergency contraceptive doesn't work when it comes to STIs. And you might say, okay, if I get STIs, I'll get antibiotics. if you keep on getting STIs, they might affect your reproductive system, and you might, by the time you realize it, it's late. But it has nothing to do with that. It's just on how our sexual behavior is. So let's condomize, and it will prevent us. You're just from having sex and use the condom. It's stress-free. Just think of it. You are home and be like, oh yeah, I use the condom. And like, you didn't use a condom and you start counting the days. So like, okay, when last did I have my periods? And a girl think of that. When last did I have my periods? And I had and the guy will be like, hey, did you have your periods? Hey, are you feeling anything? Oh, are you vomiting? And that because you're not at peace, you didn't use a condom. But if you use a condom, it's well and good. So let's condomize, and
That is, of course, Pobanda as well, coming through, telling us some safe sex practices that you can use. You can condomize. It really emphasized on condomizing if you cannot abstain. But also, back to our conversation, Mr. Godfrey Zulu, I'd like to know, what are some of the strategies or advice that you would give, especially when it comes to, promoting abstinence or delaying sexual debut?
Thank you very much, Mlenga, once again. Delaying sexual debut is very important. I think we talked about the aspect of lack of recreation activities for some of the youth. For them to have something to do that keeps them busy and engaged, enables them to stop, maybe reduce the way of thinking about sex. And by so doing, it helps them to continue with their education and, of course, reduce the burden of having unwanted pregnancies. Apart from that, when someone starts sexual activities at an early age, by the time they'll be reaching 30, 40, they would have maybe had sex with so many different people. But we are saying that by them reducing, delaying, they may just have maybe 1 or 2 partners in their life, which may eventually even lead to for them to get into marriage. When it comes also to delaying sexual debut, we are saying that the youth and adolescents, they should be able to find time to have more information about sexual reproductive health. Because sometimes most of the adolescents, they lack this information, and because they are lacking the sexual reproductive health information, it becomes difficult for them to understand some of these things, including prevention of unintended pregnancies, prevention of STIs, prevention of HIV. So they need to delay so that they take more time to them, maybe to concentrate more on their education. By the time they will be maybe after 30, 20, when they think of getting to marriage, then that becomes good. Because if you just sleep around, there are higher chances of someone getting STIs, HIV, including the unwanted pregnancies. So, Mr. Zulu, lastly, last words to the youth that is watching right now and thinking about indulging themselves into sexual activities, what would you tell them? Thank you very much. What I must say here is that the youth must take time not to rush into sexual activities. We are saying they should abstain. And abstinence is the only surest way in which we can prevent STIs and HIV. So they should be able to abstain, including unwanted pregnancies. So if you abstain, you prevent these vices. But if you don't abstain, that's why I was saying, if you can't abstain, use a condom. Remember what I was saying, that abstinence is by the grace of God. And not everyone who is of God has the same grace. Yeah, so if you can't abstain, use a condom. Most definitely, Mr. Zulu, they are coming through telling us if you can't abstain, obviously use a condom. I like the fact where you said abstinence is by the grace of God and not all of us have the same grace when it comes to that. That was our first conversation today on our very first episode of the Youth Care Talk Show. I was joined by Mr. Godfrey Zulu, who is the District Health Promotion Officer in Chilanga. And of course, our side interpreter was George Kalimukwa. So shout out to the people that came through today. Remember, you can be part of the conversation by leaving your comments in the comment section on our Facebook live stream. We always stream. It's live on our Facebook Diamond TV, as well as the Corporals Zambia Facebook page as well. You can leave your comments and be part of the conversation. We shall see you guys next week on Thursday as we continue with more honest conversations about, just getting to know more about our health, our responsibility as well, because our health, our responsibility at the end of the day. My name has been Esther Mlenga. I'll see you guys next time.